Alright, well, let's just see what this create static texture thing is in the code base. Because maybe I just have to write some C++ code here that I can call to update the textures. This doesn't exist in the entire code base. So I guess I just have to, in C++ land, do this like construct texture 2D, like update textures. Well, that's kind of horrifying. So in order to like actually go do this sort of stuff and like create a noise object and then render it out, like it's a whole bunch of steps and you have to do them one at a time. Anyway, I'll be right back. So what I've got to do to actually like make this thing usable is I need to make a function that will take a texture, I guess, and update another texture asset with it. So we're going to have to write this in C++ land to get this to work properly. So we need to take a texture render target 2D and construct something from it. So if we went to our editor utils, we made a function that was like, static void update texture from render target, and you passed in a render target 2D here. And then we passed in a texture 2D pointer, called text. This will be update texture from render target. So we're gonna snag this render target, render capture, texture render target 2D, and we're gonna call something on it. So we need like texture render target 2d.cpp. Is that a file? Let's look at construct texture 2d. It looks like they don't have anything in here. Release dynamic update blah. Copy to resolve target. We don't have a copy function. We just have like a big bunch of trash here, which constructs the texture. So let's see. This is just doing source init lockmip count size. We're gonna read through all these things and set the data after we read the pixels. And the result is a texture 2D. So what we really want to do is we just want to take this render target 2D, and I think we just want to have like an update function on it, because I'm pretty sure there's going to be stuff in here we have to mess with. So I think I'm just going to have to edit the core code here to make this possible. So where is texture render target 2d.h? I'm going to check that out too. Alright, so it's construct texture 2D. Alright, so it's going to be engine API, texture 2D. Actually, it's going to be void update texture 2D. And we are going to take in a texture pointer text. And I think that's it. Like, we just do that. We might. Let's see, do we actually use any of these things? Those are the object flags, we don't need that. What about these flags? Alright, so we do need those flags. This is UN32 flags. Do we equal anything with this? CTF defaults. Alright, and the T-array alpha override. Yeah, we'll need that as well, won't we? And I actually used the null macro in there. That's sad. Alright, so if we go ahead and create this thing, what is this bitching about? Function definition not found. Well, we're making it, so you can be quiet now, Unreal. Alright, so how we're going to do this is I'm basically going to take the guts of this construct texture 2D function and I'm just going to have it call this sort of stuff. So all we have to do is do this, hopefully. And I guess we can just copy this if we want, or I could pass in the texture format. Is render target something we actually use? I think this will work. So, theoretically, we can just compile this. Let's shut down our editor. So we're going to pass in just text, and that's it. That's all we got to do. And this is going to have to include texture render target 2D.h. Let's see how it works. And maybe we need that out there. We spelled texture 2D wrong. It's kind of funny, like if you don't have access to the source code, you just run into walls. It's just hilarious to me. Like people are like, I just want to render an updated texture. Be like, sorry, you're gonna have to download the source from GitHub and kill yourself. We'll just change that name to result, and we should be good to go on a lot of those things. Option B sounds tempting. Just give up. We need the demotivational Shia. Everything is impossible. Just let go. Give up. What are you doing? Just stop. That was always my favorite thing. A lot of people you work with in tech industry, at least as far as I know, anecdotally, there's kind of a question of when you're going over work that people do, is something difficult because it's actually difficult, or is it difficult because the person working on it doesn't know what the hell they're doing and is making it difficult? Such as, like, you give a task to somebody and they could take 2 million years with it and just be like, this is such a difficult problem. They go on and on and on about how this is such a hard problem to solve, and how they're heroes. Like, I know one guy who did a whole bunch of work for a build system, and he just worked on this thing for just months and months and months, and at the end of it, it was still a complicated, horrible piece of garbage. And when it was my job to actually deal with it, I just deleted it and just checked in some jars, and then we were good to go. It was like, there you go, it works. So that was always my kind of go-to when people would start being like, this is so impossible, blah blah blah. Be like, no, it's not. If it was impossible, we wouldn't be doing it. But just people need to, I think, learn sometimes that, I don't know, it's real difficult to figure it out. Like, if you're not actually working on something, it can be, you're not sure if, the person working under you is just a moron, or if what they're doing is actually difficult. So, what I found is most of the time, it was that the person was making it. It just kind of look. Some people are always terribly vexed on the team or whatever. Like, everything they do is always the most difficult thing on the planet, and so what I would usually do is just keep track of who kept saying things were always impossible, and just being like, those people, there's something wrong with them. It's not the universe that's wrong. It's them that's wrong. This is one of the things is we'd ask in interview questions. One of the interview questions I like to ask was, this number line question that was difficult, and for people to get. And I really didn't care if they actually got the solution or not. Like, I honestly didn't care at all if they got the solution. All I cared about was what they blamed when they failed when they were not getting it. Because if people said, "Oh man, this problem is really hard," and like they kept saying that, and they kept building up the problem as being this ridiculous thing that was, it's not that I'm dumb or something. It's not that there isn't a solution. It's that this problem is incredibly hard. And the people who are like, the solution is gonna be really clever, or the solution is gonna be, I'm having trouble finding it. Those people are good at finding solutions and not building it up. So it was even if people, it was how people reacted when they weren't successful, and if they blamed themselves, that was one thing. I didn't really like that. People are like, "Oh, I'm so dumb." I'd be like, "No, no, no, you're not dumb. You're here. You made it through the phone interview, or whatever." Like we've already ruled out that you can actually answer a phone and schedule a meeting. Like that means you at least have a brainstem. So you got that going for you at least. But it was, so if people were, it's the same thing like, people say about your kids or whatever. It's like never tell somebody that they got an A because they're so smart. Tell them they got an A because they worked so hard, and then people build up this mental image of themselves being super smart, and that's why they can accomplish things. And then they will actively avoid things that they are bad at because there's this mental block of like, this is the part of the reason psychology of procrastinating is like, I'm so smart, etc., that you'll just basic requirement, have a brain. Yes, that's all you need to attend meetings. Be able to breathe. But it was the psychology of like, not attempting to do something because it's difficult, and that you end up avoiding things and just being bad at them because you think you're so smart and it should be so easy. Alright, so we need this blueprint noise generator thing. Let's make a texture. I just want a texture, just a normal blank fucking texture. You can't do that? You can't do that for me? You can't let me make like a blank texture? Man. Let's just call this test blank texture. Alright, so let's make a function here. Let's just call it save. Let's call it save. Saving texture. So we're gonna need a output texture and output texture normal. Alright, so this output texture, we're going to default to this test blank texture, and we will we'll duplicate this real quick, and we'll have test blank normal texture. So we've got those, and we're going to want to call our new function update texture from render target. Come on, I clicked on you. So we want to update both of these. So we're going to snag this, and we're going to snag this. So this texture and that texture, and then we got our render targets. Yeah, I was always in charge of interviews for stuff because I was one of those people that was kind of a douchebag to people when interviewing them. I mean, you probably can't tell, but I'm not a very nice person in the real world. Alright, so finished saving texture. So I always got put in interviews because it was basically like, well, I don't hate this guy. They'd be like, oh man, that's a glowing recommendation. Alright, so that's what our save is going to do, is we're going to call our update texture. So interviews were always fun. It's okay when you know what you're dealing with. Yeah. Okay, so with our noise generator, if we go ahead and click on it, and we hit generate texture, and then save, it's blank. Okay. Is our render target is blank too? Alright. So generate texture. It's got nothing in it. And that has to do with this material, I'm pretty sure. This material needs to be something that this should be a convert to texture sample. No. Alright, so we got texture object parameter. So what we're going to want is this I'm going to call this normal texture. Oh, come on, Unreal. You click on the goddamn plane thing and it just blows up. They probably fixed that in like 4.17 or something like that. I mean, you could hope. So what the hell did we lose? Well, we got our save function at least. I don't think we lost anything. Yeah, just this texture object. Texture object parameter. I'm going to call this normal texture. Alright, we'll apply that. We'll save that. In our construction script, we're going to modify it. Yeah, I had one of those professors too in college. At Digipen, we had Professor Earhart. I think I had him like one of the last years he was there, but he was really good. Alright, and this is the normal texture. And he did a lot of cool stuff. Like one of the most hilarious things I think he did is he made us use project planning software to actually plan our project in college, which you might be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But the whole point is project planning software is always just awful. It's always trash. So he went and found the absolute worst piece of crap project planning software he could, and it was called eProject at the time, and he made us use it. So you had no choice but to use just this awful garbage town stuff. And he would always check, like, well, is your plan in E project? And you know, like, pretty much nobody would use it because it was just a pile of shit. You know, but you know, it's very, it's kind of like when you're in a corporation, etc. They need you to use certain project planning tools so they can track progress or whatever across multiple organizations. That's what the executives read. So if you don't fill that out properly, you look bad, and like, it doesn't matter if you do everything right, you'll still get your funding cut because you know, your measurements or whatever for your team are wrong. So it was funny. Just nobody would ever have it done. But my team had our e-project stuff set up because I would just go, you know, pay the price in blood. Just like, well, I did, you know, I tracked my hours and I did my stuff, and there we go. All right, so I should be able to generate this thing. Alright, so it generated it. Let's call save. Alright, so the noise render target's fine. The noise render target normals is there. So generate normals. Save. Alright, it's white. Noise normal render target. Ah, no, I got this wrong. It was output texture. Should be the input for the normal texture, because it's reading. Alright, this should be called not normal texture, but noise texture. So let's go ahead and change that name so we don't just hurt ourselves in our confusion. Alright, so generate texture, save, generate normals, save. Excellent. So we've got those written out. So let's see if we can wait one frame. Call blueprint next event next frame Unreal. What I want to do is I want to wait one frame. So there's a delay node? What is this? There is no delay. Alright, that's stupid. Basically what I want to do is I want to call this thing back next frame, and after we've generated something, so I can call generate normals after the render is finished for generate texture. I mean, maybe I can just call generate normals, and then I can call save, add it at the end of it. I don't know. Let's just see if it works. I don't think it's gonna work. So this is generate texture. Okay, so we just click the button twice is what I'm seeing work here, which is fine with me. Let's just call this generate. We'll just call it pump. And it'll do things for us. So all you do is you just keep clicking pump, and just click that a couple times, and it'll render out stuff. Alright, so let's get some inputs in here for some of this. The noise material expression. It doesn't allow us to pass a whole lot in here, so I'm looking at, like, now that we've actually got our object so we can generate whatever noise we want. Let's see if we can. Yeah, that's right. You just keep slamming on that pump button to get your textures. Just makes it all noisy. We want, like, all these things to be parameterized so you could, like, screw around with stuff. But of course, none of that crap is available for the input node. Which is just really damned annoying. I'd like to be able to do something with this. Alright, so we can kind of create these different textures if we need to. Not sure how this noise works. Sorry about flashing everything back and forth, but I'm just trying to figure out who has epilepsy in the channel and then give them horrible seizures. Including myself. I'm pretty much just looking at these things to make sure the textures are lining up and that the normals work properly. Looks like they are. Okay, so I wish I could change some of these variables outside of this thing. Let's see if we can change this. Make like a new noise expression or something. Because I wouldn't be against just like duplicating this thing entirely. So let's see where in the code base this stuff even lives and see if we can like maybe copy this or something. And I can see exactly what these sorts of material expressions actually allow us to do. So this is our enum for the noise function itself. So when you have a material expression, so what position here is a U property, and this is edit anywhere. So what about this is meaning that we can actually set this thing? Like these are just U properties, but these are U properties with edit anywhere on them. I'm gonna screw around with this real quick. I'm gonna save everything in the editor, and I'm gonna add a new, just like bogus property in here, and see where it gets added. So we're gonna add like this thing here with material expression noise, and we're just gonna throw in like bogus input. Oh, these take F expression inputs. That's what they're doing. So let's just compile this in here and see what we actually get. I like Adam's the screen avatars that are all jumping around with fat sacks. That's pretty fucking awesome, actually. Because he's got like how many little fat sacks running around at the bottom of the screen? There's like 3 or 4. I mean, are those like people who have acquired those and set that as their avatar, or has Adam assigned them to be the fat sack avatar? Oh, you're actually bats? Like, I don't see any bats flying around on his, so I'm assuming that you got something else going on. And that you're talking about your channel. Alright, let's see if our bogus input is there. You can customize the sprites. So do you, as you, customize your sprites, or do you, as the streamer, customize which sprites can be used? Because I could see people being able to have, you know, questionable looking avatars. Alright, so we pop open this noise material. Do we see new nodes upon this noise thing? Yeah, we see bogus input. Bogus input's totally there. So that's how we add things. I like my comment. You just like mouse over and it's like, this is trash. Okay, so you can choose from a set. Alright, that makes a lot more sense. And if we didn't have that stupid ass reflection stuff coming off here, this would look pretty decent. But we got this just awful looking reflection stuff in here. It's that like the outside reflection is just garbage. I don't know. I'm gonna have to figure out what that'll look like. You gave them to the dev guy? You sure you didn't charge him like $100? Be like, you know, this is the standard bat pack, but you know, for an extra $200 you can get upgraded bats that have wings and can fly, as opposed to bats that just hang onto the ceiling and then just fall down eventually when their grip gives out and they just die horribly on the bottom of the screen. So what do we want to do? We want to be able to mess with this noise input. So let's look at material expression noise. .cpp. It does not exist. Well, let's see where noise function is used. Oh man, so this is a little bit more complicated than I would have liked. Distance to nearest surface. Compiler noise. Okay, so if we're going to actually use this, basically what has to happen is we have view properties which are on here, which we use to mess with these things. So what? So we have these in properties. Can't edit, change. What we're gonna look for is where position is being used. So we have position.compile compiler get traced input expression. Okay, so this is how it figures it out. We do get traced input.expression. How do we know what this does? Like position is an F expression input, and when you call compile, it's returning an int32. I have no goddamn clue what this does. Filter width output, compile compiler, otherwise it's a constant 0. Okay, so the compile step probably has it pointing to something that's different. So the int32 for the position is actually like some sort of ID for a value inside of the compiler. So for us to do things like this, we could do like constants. So we could extend this to have a few things in it, like B tiling and all that stuff. So what would we want to set on this thing? That would be like our function. We can't pass in the different function type, but we could do like kind of a value, 1 to 5 sort of thing. Alright, so what would we want if we had inputs? We would want the function type of noise. We would want turbulence. So this would be an enum, so it's basically going to be an int32. Now turbulence, that's going to be a boolean. We're going to want levels, which is an int32. We're going to want, I guess, the min / max. Those are both float. We're going to want tiling, which is a boolean. And I guess we want the repeat size, which is going to be int32. guess we also want the scale. Do we care about the quality? I think we care about the quality. Alright, so what we'd want for this thing is expression input would be, let's do it from the top. So we're going to want the scale. What are you talking about? Profit is what's important, not quality. Alright, so we need the... It's going to be like... I guess this will be... Turbulence... Levels. Alright, yeah, this will be levels.